Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and assalamu alaikum to all of you guys. I hope you all are good. Today I will discuss about the complete introduction to history, that where did the word history come from, what is its meaning, what is its definition, its sources, its components, and all that would be discussed in this video. So firstly, if I talk about the etymology of history, so the word history was firstly used in Greek language as tossopative. I hope that I know that no one will know the language Greek. So the word was tossopative. Then in the Latin language, the word was written as historia, and then in French language it was considered as histoire, and then comes English as history. So the word history faced the long chain of changing of words from Greek to Latin, then French to English, then finally. So the literal meanings of history are inquiry, are research, are investigation. That whenever we talk about the history, our mind immediately hits that yes, when did that event happen, what did it happen, and what was it actually about. So that is all about inquiry, that is all about investigation, that is all about research. So if we talk about the definition of history, so history is defined as a whole series of past events. It is, yeah, the main thing is that it is always about the past, what is being done in the past. So whole series of past events connected with a particular person or concerned with the humans, or the study of past events, particularly in human affairs. So I would say that history is all about the human beings. That if we talk about the history of Fateh Makkah, that when did it happen, where did it happen, we don't talk about in history that what is environment, what is geography. These all things, areas are not a part of history. They have another dominee, they have another part area. So these are not the part of history. History is all about the human affairs, the events concerned with human affairs. So let's move to the father of history, that who was the father of history and who was the magnanimous person who used and who wrote history for the first time. So his name was Herodotus, who born in 484 BC and who died in 425 BC, before Christ. So he was the very magnanimous person who wrote history for the first time, and he was a Greek historian, and he wrote history of Persian and Greek, the war between Persian and Greek. He wrote the complete history of that war. So he didn't mention the environment, he didn't mention the soil, the ocean. That's not the history. So he was the one who, instead of the war between gods, that was a very significant problem at that time, but he didn't mention it. He mentioned the affairs between the human beings. So he was the one who inculcated in us the idea of writing history of the events concerned with human beings. So when we talk about the history, that the Herodotus wrote the history for the first time, we also have to learn, we also have to know that when did the universe came into existence, when did the earth, when did the writing begin, and how did that process continued, that it ended in writing history. So if we talk about the universe came into existence 15 billion years ago. That's the approximate estimate, that universe came into existence 15 billion years ago. And if we talk about earth, so earth formed around 4.5 billion years ago, approximately one third the age of universe. So here is the writing mistake 6.5 years ago? Not. That's not 6.5 years ago. Writing writing is actually writing actually began around at 3000 to 4000 BC. In that time writing began. So if we are talking about history and we are talking about the existence of universe and earth and then writing, we also have to learn that when did the writing begin, how did it begin. So that these are the very primary things that we have to know in the intro of history. So so people used to write on the tree, on the pictographs they made on the clay tablets. They're very meaningful memories we have in Europe, that if we visit that if you want to visit Europe, you would find the many manuscripts written in that era, what was like that, and pictographs they made on clay tablets. These are all the things that we see that people used to write on in the past. So if we talk about the introduction or the use of paper, how did the paper came, and we are writing here. So the paper was papyrus. Papyrus was a tree in China, and its upper part was used to write on. The people used to write on the its external part. External part was used by the people to write something. So the word paper came from the papyrus, the tree from China, and the paper was introduced from China in 105 AD, and writing began very formally. So the paper was introduced from China in 105 AD. So that's about the existence of universe, the earth, the writing, the paper, the writing process, and all that. So let's move to the components of history. What are the main components of history? That in Without that components, history is useless. And the four components of history are when, where, what, why. The complete story of W, that when did that event happen, where did it happen, what did happen, and why is the, I would say that it is the most significant, it is the most mandatory part of history writing, that whenever you are going to write the history of any event, you have to know the reasons. You have to know the reasons, that why did that event happen, what's the reason, what are the things that caused that made it happen. So why is the main part. That if we talk about that Pakistan came into being on 14th August 1947, but if we talk about the why did it happen, why did the separation happen, so we have to know the complete history, the complete background of that thing. So facts and interpretation, these are the things that you would inshallah agree. That fact, what is the fact? Fact is obviously is actually generally agreed statements. That I would say, if I say that Pakistan came into being on 14th August 1947, everyone would agree, yes, that Pakistan came into being on 14th August 1947. No one will disagree. So that's a fact. And if we talk about that Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam came into this world on 12 Rabiul Awwal, so that's a fact. No one would disagree that point. And if we talk, let's move to the interpretations. That interpretations are the viewpoints. That how does the person take this thing? That how does the person have this point, that how did it take it, That's the viewpoint, and viewpoints always, everyone has a different viewpoint. So facts and interpretations are the main things. That facts are obviously the agreed statements, and interpretations are viewpoints that are always different from one person to second person. So, objectivity and subjectivity in history. Objectivity and subjectivity in history are the very important aspects of history that you have to remember very well. So, objectivity, what is objectivity in this? Objectivity holds that any historical writing should be based on solid facts. So, if we are going to write the history of Pakistan, that why did the separation happen? So we would know the solid facts, the solid reasons of Pakistan separation. That yes, the socio-economic problem was there, the religious problem was there, the Islam was not practiced there, was not practiced there. So that are the solid facts of that part. So objectivity always holds that whatever we are going to write, we should know the solid facts, devoid of sentiments, without inculcating our own emotions. We would know, we have to know the complete background. We don't have to write our own emotion, what are we feeling. No, that's not about the history. Biases and prejudice, it's all about it. It is just beyond discuss, that we don't have to discuss about the sex, we don't have to discuss about the nation. We have to during writing we have to remain neutral, that what did it happen, why did it happen. It is simply referred to as respect for the truth. Yes, as we know that Islam also says that you have to speak truth. So if we are going to write history, you have to respect for the truth. So that's all about the objectivity. That objectivity is the main thing, is the, I would say, it is the root of history. That whatever you are going to write, you should have the solid facts of the objectivity. And if we talk about the subjectivity in history, so the quality of being based on or influenced by personal feelings, tastes, or opinions. So we would not write our personal feelings. So subjectivity is not more important than objectivity. So you have to remember the main aspect, that is objectivity. So what is the term chronology? Whenever you are going to read the introduction of history, you must know the new terms. Like we have discussed the objectivity and subjectivity before, so now we are going to discuss chronology. Chronology is the arrangement of events or dates in the order of their occurrence. So if we talk about the ghazwas of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if we talk about, so we would say that Ghazwa Badr happened in 2nd Hijri, then Ghazwa Uhud in dash Hijri, and then Ghazwa Kandak in dash Hijri. So these are the arrangement of events. These are the arrangement of events or dates in the order of their occurrence. So this is just a chronology. If we are going to write history, we must have the arrangement that when did that event happen, when did that event happen, so on. So that's called as chronology. You have to history chronology plays a very significant role. So the three levels of meanings of chronology are that chronology studies the chronological record of past events. Yeah, chronological record. Like we say that event happened on 1st Jan, then that event happened on 2nd Jan, then that event happened on 1st February. So these are the chronological record of past events we are going to discuss in history. So as affecting the nation or people, so how can we affect the nation or people in history, that whatever the people overcame in that event, we would write it, so that that writing affects nation or people in that way. And it is based on a critical examination of source materials. Critical examination is that if we are going to write the history of anything, so we would see it critically, that yes, that event happened, it like that, and these all like that, like this will be playing part in critical examination of source materials. So the sources of history are primary source, secondary source, and tertiary source. Three sources of history are there. So firstly, we'll move to primary sources. Primary sources are first-hand documents that provide direct evidence. Now, what is that direct evidence? We would say that any person who witnessed that event and he wrote about that event at that immediate moment, so that is the direct evidence that we would have the direct evidence of that part. So primary source are the first hand documents in which we would have the absolute information about that event. So primary sources include documents or artifacts created by a witness or a participant in an event. So it includes newspapers, it includes plays, music, government documents, novel, etc. These primary sources are all that primary things or people who write it at that immediate moment, and we got that at the absolute information. So what are the archives? We didn't mention it. So archives, a collection of historical documents or records providing information about a place, institution, or group of people. It is a collection of historical documents, and accumulation of historical records in any media is called as archives. An archive is a very important and significant aspect of primary source. So question may arise that where can the archive can be used? So archives contain primary source documents. It cannot contain the secondary source document. It cannot contain the tertiary source document. So archives are the main aspect of primary source documents. So primary source documents over the course of an individual or organization lifetime. So let's move to the secondary source. Secondary source is not a first-hand document. So question may come that what's the main difference between the primary source and secondary source of history? So the primary source are the first-hand documents. So we can say that we can have the absolute and the exact information about that event. But in case of secondary source, it is not a first-hand document. It can belong to earlier and later period to the era under investigation. To the earlier and later period to the era under investigation, it cannot refer to the exact time period. It cannot refer to the absolute time period, absolute event that what's going on. It is referred to the earlier time period or the later time period, and they are the interpretations and evaluations of primary sources. Secondary source always mean the second source. So the primary, it is always derived from primary source. They are not evidence but rather commentary on and discussion of evidence. Whatever the event happened in the primary source, In secondary source, it would be commented, it would be discussed in the secondary source, like books, like articles and all that. So let's move to the last slide, that is tertiary sources. So tertiary sources, it presents the summaries or condensed version of materials, usually with the references back to the primary and secondary sources. So the summaries or condensed version of material, what does it mean? That we talked about the primary sources, that primary sources, the exact meaning, the exact story of that event is the primary source, and the secondary source is the discussion about the that event. After the event, the discussion about that event is the secondary source. But if we talk about the tertiary, it is the summary, it is the précis of that event, the summary, the condensed version of that event, usually with the references back to the primary and secondary sources, of course. So, and tertiary sources include encyclopedia, it can include dictionaries and handbook. So that's how this all introduction of history come to an end, and I hope you would all get it. And next in the next lecture we will talk about some more points of history, some more things of history. So till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.